Hello, I'm Alexandra Emanuele, digital content editor with Global Food Safety Resource, and today I'm chatting with Laura Dunn Nelson. Laura is the Vice President of Food Safety at Alchemy and currently serves as the Vice Chair of the Food Safety Culture Professional Development Group for IAFP. We'll be talking about the changing nature of training and how to meet those rising demands. So Laura, let's jump right in. First question. Technology has changed and evolved the way we work in so many industries, the food industry included. How would you say that training has evolved to meet the increasing innovations and automations in the workplace?
Great question, Alexandria. So let me answer that maybe two different ways, if you will. The first way I'd like to share is there is so much information about the change, the pivot that we're in the middle of, and it's really driving, it's being driven by AI, so artificial intelligence and technology and automation. So the research really is pointing strongly to the challenge of training the workforce for that change. And let me give you an example. So IBM just did a study, I think it's the Enterprise Guide for closing the skills gap. And their research really indicates that because of AI and because of automation and technology, that I think it's something like 150 million workers will need to be retrained. So the skills that they have now are not going to be sufficient, right? With the backdrop of this change, this new technologies and new behaviors that we need to see from them. So we know that there's this big change coming on. And so I like the question about the evolution of training. In fact, I think Jeannie Rometty, that's chairman and CEO of IBM, she's even quoted as saying, in her opinion, she expects 100% of the workforce to require new training, new skills in the next 5 to 10 years.
Wow.
So think about that. I mean, think about you and I, what we do every day, that we will need to be retrained against this huge change, this huge pivot that we're going through with AI and automation and technology. So we know there's going to be these big changes. That's against the backdrop of it's harder to train these employees. It's harder to train you and I. Same sort of research is indicating that back in 2014, it took an average of 3 days to close a skill gap. In 2018, the research says that it takes 36 days to close a skills gap. So let's think about that. Why is that? Why do we have such a change, a dramatic change in a very short amount of time? And so as we brainstorm and we think about, and the research points to this, is our jobs are becoming more complex. So if you look in the food industry, you see that we have more technology that we're working with. It's more complex in the technology and how we run our operations. The regulations are increasing. Customer demands are increasing. We're making faster shift changes, different products, different ingredients. We have a very diverse workforce, and so how we train and across all of those different cultures is a real challenge. And so it's taking us longer to train. Now, if we add, we're going to train more, or we have to train and change and train on different skills. Wow, it's going to be a very big demand on companies' learning organizations. So in addition to that, the use of technology in a learning organization is gaining momentum. So by that I mean, this thought of just doing one and done training and in a classroom where we bring everybody together and we have a facilitator and they share, stories and everything. We're recognizing that way isn't suffice, right? It's not going to be driving the comprehension that we need. And so people are turning to technology, I think, to number one, be more efficient at it, be consistent at it, and be more effective at training. And so using technology, of course, with more consistent videos, and it is really important, and having that record keeping and documentation. But I think what we see is a continued evolution to beyond the classroom training, but it also is, so we train in the classroom, but still people are doing the wrong things. We have a global food safety training survey that we do every year, and consistently, Alexandria, 67% of the respondents say, despite our training, we still have people doing the wrong thing. And so when you look at that and you think, gosh, we're spending all this time and all this effort, why isn't that working? And I think largely it's because we are defining training as classroom training, the formal training. And what we know is you've got to go beyond that to be effective. You've got to validate the behaviors. So they learn something, but are they applying what they learned? Do they truly comprehend it? And can you validate those behaviors on the plant floor? And so we have tools like Coach that automates that process, allows the supervisor to pick up a tablet and go out very quickly and validate, you know, any number of their training behaviors. And then we know that they need to reinforce that training. So if we think about the learning curve, you know, people are listening to this now won't remember what I said, you know, in 30 days, you know, or a majority of it, 90% of it will be completely gone. So we forget things. And so we have to keep reminding people what's important to our organization, what's critical to our organization. And oftentimes it is food safety, right? It's the protocols and procedures. And so we see the evolution of companies maturing their learning organization and adding that reinforcement piece. It's what I call rolling thunder. So it's keeping top of mind those key concepts. And you can do that through, we offer posters, huddle guides, little mini videos, but there's all a number of, we see some really creative ideas like in classroom, in the break room, little tents that keep reminding. Certainly recognition programs are huge in reinforcing correct behaviors and getting people galvanized. So we do see a lot of change going on. I think the real key is understand out there that against, like I said, that the change that the world is undergoing with AI and automation and technology, emerging technologies. And if you believe any of these research, we know we're going to be changing and having to reskill our employees. And so we know that the learning organizations are going to need to change and mold and adopt new technologies and new ways of training.
And what you said right there really leads me to my next question, which is, you know, classroom training is so key and so integral for so many people. But, you know, having on-the-job training can be another really effective way to learn, and another really effective way for retention of learning. Because as you just mentioned, if you hear someone say something 30 days from now, are you going to forget it? And that sort of thing can be the difference between, you know, retention and loss. But I think you and I both know there's some obvious pros and cons between the on the job training and, you know, classroom training. You know, there can be bad practices picked up in on the job training. There can be better attention in on the job training. So maybe walk me through some of the pros and cons, and, you know, how would you mitigate any of those issues?
Right. It's a big question, right? So it's one of those questions that we've been investigating for years here at Alchemy. The on-the-job training is happening every day, every hour of every day, every second of every day. So I'm new to the organization. I might go through some onboarding, but I'm going to go stand by Sally over here, and I'm being instructed to follow what Sally's doing, right? And the odds of Sally nailing it perfectly, you know, who knows, right? But there's other influencers, other colleagues that I might be talking to that are that, may have a little shortcut or a little something that's going to, give me some information. And all of a sudden, what I heard in the classroom isn't exactly what, what I'm doing out, in practice. And so this is what the challenge is and what people are experiencing. But managing that on-the-job training is so important, because it's one thing to learn a skill or information and be educated or trained in a classroom, but for me to reinforce that as a learned behavior, and to have the confidence, and so knowledge and confidence to do the right thing, it takes me doing it, right? It's habitual. I need to do it over and over again. And that's really the charm of on-the-job training. You just got to make sure that it's correct on-the-job training and consistent. And
Right.
so, as I said, we've been putting our arms around this, and we've been talking to the industry for years, because a couple of things are happening. So we know that absenteeism is a challenge. I spoke earlier about the complexity of equipment. So if you could think about some companies that we work with have 20% of their workforce is absent at any given day. So they've got equipment that they've got, very complex equipment in most cases, that they've got to keep running. And maybe the normal people that run it aren't there today. So what do? So they need to find qualified employees that will be able to run that equipment. So that's a big challenge. And that qualifications is really the key, because do they have that confidence again to be able to run that? So we've the other overarching challenge is this knowledge retention. We've got people retiring, and they are taking a lot of knowledge with them. And it's funny, I was talking to a dairy VP of operations at a dairy, and he said, "Laura, I have 3 employees, and if those 3 employees left tomorrow, I'd have to close my doors." Shut the dairy down, because they had all the knowledge. And he said, I don't even know what they know, but I know that they can keep the plant running, right? They can keep the equipment going, and we're producing. And so that whole knowledge retention is a big challenge for the industry, because people just, knowledge is power. Employees like to kind of hold that tight, and they need to feel wanted and needed. And so, that's kind of job security. So we've got this absenteeism challenge and this knowledge retention challenge. And again, we've been talking to folks, and so we created with the industry this new service, and it's called Playbook. And it's really designed to keep the employees and train them on the job. So it's an easy template to use to capture the right procedures, right? The right behaviors, the right procedures, and reinforce those really quick little videos, and then call those up as needed.
Well, we have to leave it there, but thank you so much, Laura Dunn Nelson. It's been a pleasure to chat with you, and look forward to chatting with you again in the future.
Yes, me too, Alexandria. Thanks for this opportunity. Really appreciate it.